All right, I'm back here with Fred Ashford. As you can see, we're probably the most beautiful two powerlifters on the face of the earth. We were talking before we left about the state of powerlifting. I want to talk to Fred a little bit about that. You know, there's a lot of talk on the web about is powerlifting dead, that sort of thing. Fred, what do you see? I mean, what do you think about the state of modern powerlifting?
I think the state is alive and well. You know, I think that organizationally, there's organizations out there that are strong. It's like I'd mentioned before, powerlifting is independent in its own nature, but those folks that talk about the state of powerlifting is dead are A, don't compete, or B, don't go to enough meets to see how many folks are showing up, how many young folks are showing up, and how many old folks are showing up. Like I said, it's so inclusive, and you have folks from mid-60s down to teenage lifters having fun, helping each other. I got to tell you, a lot of people talk about some of the biting on the internet, on some of the boards, MAB not included, where which is very well moderated. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Where people will bite back and forth. But for the most part, the internet has opened up the sport. Back in the 80s, you wouldn't see anybody except maybe twice a year at the meets. And everybody would have their own little cliques and kind of hang tight to it. And a lot of folks just didn't like each other. But they didn't talk smack like they do on the internet. You go to a meet today, there's a lot of camaraderie. I don't care whether it's a NASA meet, which are the meets I prefer to go to, or a USAPL meet, or a USPA meet, or IPA, correct?
UPA.
UPA. You go to these meets, and you see folks getting along, having fun, helping each other, and really enjoying the sport. And that's what powerlifting's about.
You know, I mentioned in the previous video, I got into powerlifting, you know, maybe 2008, seriously. I didn't know anything about the sport. And my experience is that powerlifting is like a big family. I mean, you have maybe the 10%, whatever the percentage is, 10% of guys out there on the internet. Maybe it's probably even a smaller percentage because the big mouths always seem to stir up the most trouble. Maybe 1%, but the rest of it is like a family. We're at meets, we're supporting one another, we're all linked up via the social media. We watch each other's training videos. And beyond that, I mean, it's very healthy in that sense. But beyond that, you know, when I've helped a lot of guys get into the sport in the last 6 years, and once somebody competes, it's something I've never seen anybody want to stop competing. So I don't know how you feel about it, but the biggest challenge for me is to get people to compete, to get people to a meet and say, you don't need a deadlift, you know, 700 pounds like all this stuff you see on YouTube. Just go there, have fun, and once they're actually there, it's hard to lose that fever. I mean, I'm not sure what you think about that, but you know, that's been my experience.
I feel exactly the same way. I mean, we've had conversations with members on our own board, you know, and it's funny, just MAB, you know, people on MAB think of it as our own board. It's our own community that they train, they lift, and they're thinking about going to that next meet, but they want to wait until their bench press is at 315, or they're deadlifting 500 pounds, or they're squatting 475. Well, let me tell you, you're always going to wait because that bar will creep up and there'll always be movement. And you're going to always say, well, I need to wait until, and I need to wait until. You just need to go to the meet. Take your gym lifts, have somebody that knows what they're doing, send in videos, make sure you're hitting depth, make sure you know the rules, and drop your openers in your first meet. Go to it and have fun. You'll never look back. You'll call Steve and I and you'll say, guys, you're right. You're exactly right. All I needed to do is go to the meet and get bit by the bug.
Let's talk about strength standards a little bit, Fred, because that's something, you know, when I'm talking to folks who are interested in competing, it's a subject that comes up over and over again. You see these incredible hulks on the internet. I mean, there's a couple things at play. There's guys that are using training gear, you know, like squat suits and bench shirts that elevate the numbers. And obviously you have natural and enhanced powerlifting. But for the average guy, maybe the average natty guy, the average natural lifter who's pretty strong in the gym, they look at these numbers and think, you know, there's no way I should powerlift because I'm nowhere near as strong as these guys. What do you have to say to that average lifter?
Well, get in the meet. You're going to be amazed, number one, of where you are in the meet. And number two is how much nobody really gives a crap. When you're on the platform, in most meets, in just about every organization, and I say most meets, you can have meets that are specific to an organization or a club. I mean, there are meets that are run by Westside. Louis meets, he runs the meets, and it's very, very an exclusive group. But I'm talking about inclusive, regular, open powerlifting meets. You're going to be in the mix, and you're going to find out maybe 2 or 3 guys in the meet are lifting that kind of weight. You're going to see teenage girls that are opening up with the bar. You're going to see guys there that are 114 pounds, bench pressing 115 pounds, having a great time and being supportive.
My first meet was in Iowa. I think it was IDFPF or something like that. And I picked a small fed because I thought I could just kind of blend in and there wouldn't be a lot of monsters there. I thought I was going to show up and suck, okay? You know, and I'd never want to power lift again. My total was 1501. I beat the second strongest guy in the meet by 150 pounds. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying, you know, most of us are a lot stronger than we think we are. And if you pick out a meet like this and you show up, you know, it's not about how strong you are. It's about beating yourself. But most of us are a lot stronger than we think we are. So don't let whatever strength standard you have in your head prevent you from competing. I mean, that's just foolish.
Well, you mentioned it, their strength standard. If you're not going to meets on some frequent basis, whether you're participating or watching, your strength standards are all in your head. That's where you develop your standards at. I use a powerlifting meet, for me, is their milestones. That's where I measure my accomplishment. When anybody says or asks what I bench or where I'm ranked, it's off my last powerlifting meet.
Now, you know, I want to talk about, this is something I think I just made a video about recently, but I want to talk about it again with you here. When you look on the net, outside of the powerlifting realm, you know, just on the average forum guy, not Muscle and Brawn, but the average forum guy, the average Facebook talk, everybody on the net seems to bench press 300. But then when you go to a gym, like a commercial gym, how often do you see an average lifter benching 300?
A training partner, I lift at home, but when I get close to a meet, like I am now, I need a training partner to help me lift off on the bench press. And so him and I were talking back in San Diego, and he's under that same dilemma. He's looking at his lifts and go, wow. I go, look around, Eric. How many folks in here bench 3 wheels, 315 pounds? I says, not only today that you've seen in this gym. 3, 4. I mean, how many guys are spinning 4 wheels on the squatting 405?
Right, exactly.
2. How many guys even deadlift in the gym other than, you know, what you see the bros do? It just doesn't exist. It's a different world.
I was thinking about this earlier this week, and you know, during the past year, I've traveled for about 14 months, and I've been in Wisconsin, Louisiana, South Carolina, and everywhere in between. I've been at YMCAs, Gold Gyms, and I've seen one guy, other than today was a fluke. Me, Fred, and there was a 67-year-old guy there benching 405 pounds.
Dude was unbelievable.
This was the first time I've ever seen 3 guys in the same commercial gym benching with 3 wheels or more. But that aside, this time I've spent traveling, I've seen one guy bench over 300 pounds. And the reason I'm bringing this up is simply because the average lifter thinks they have to bench like 320 or 350 to enter powerlifting meet, and that's simply not the case. I mean, you know, it's the same with squats. You rarely ever see anybody in a commercial gym squat to begin with. All right, guys, we'll be right back. I'm going to pause this video, and we'll be right back after this brief message from nobody.